My name is Alix Shantz.
I'm Sara Kostelnick.
And I'm Cassie Dimmick.
And this is Practical Nutrition with Achieving Your Best. And today we are talking about granola bars. So, granola bars, I mean, is it even a granola bar anymore?
There's so many options.
It's evolved so much. Now there's protein bars, there's all kinds of things. So, I mean, your general granola bar is going to have your oats and then something to keep it together, and it's going to add a couple, hopefully, healthful things, and it's going to make it into a bar shape. But now we're just kind of all over the place. Typical granola bars are going to be high fiber, keep you full, have lots of good vitamins and minerals. And a 2018 statistic that I just saw says the granola bar industry globally makes $11.1 billion.
Wow.
That is
a lot.
So much money. So much money. And the leading granola bar sales in 2017, number one was Nature Valley, which that's a pretty common one. And then we have Nature Valley Sweet and Salty, also common. And then followed by Quaker, Chewy, Sunbelt, Kind, and then lastly Atkins.
Probably all ones that everyone recognizes in the grocery store.
Exactly, yeah. So, kind of looking at all these granola bars, why, I mean, let's start with Cassie. Why do people even use granola bars?
Chocolate.
It's
It's a rationalization for eating candy bars sometimes. So that's probably one of the top reasons, but really no, people use them because they're easy and convenient. You just can grab it, you can throw it in your bag, in your car, and it stays good through the summer. You know, Nature Valley Crunchy Bars might be a bunch of crumbs by the time you're done, but you can, it's still edible. So convenience and on the go is one of the big reasons I see people using it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure every soccer mom probably has like 4 or 5 shoved down the bottom of their purse too. So like Cassie said, they're versatile, they're portable. They're also easy to prep. I mean, it's not a lot of ingredients like we talked about, the good ones. So if you put like oats, some kind of sweetness in there, whether it be honey, whether it be some kind of syrup, like we said, super quick, super convenient. So
Absolutely. And like you said, Cassie, with the getting the crumbs everywhere. I don't know if anybody's had those Nature Valley bars, but I'll open it outside of my car just to make sure that the crumbs go
paper towels underneath.
Exactly. So people might wonder, what do registered dietitians recommend? Well, obviously we always recommend whole food first, but sometimes when we're busy and life is crazy, if you've got kids, you're running around, granola bars might be a quick option for you. So it's important that you know, at least from a registered dietitian standpoint, what we feel like might be some healthier options. And with that being said, I know that each of us have probably tried granola bars, at least had them. What kinds of you tried and like, Cassie?
My go-to is the Nature Valley or Lara bar. Those are probably our two, and then Cliff bars as well. We have a very active family, so we use those often on the way to a game or as a snack or on the way to work out. So that's how we use them. And again, they should be a backup or used for when you're active, not just a crutch to grab. That's one of the things that we don't use them for, is just hanging out at home, or if we have other healthy options that we can have, like fruits and nuts, for a snack. So
Right. And then for myself, like Cassie said, I utilize Cliff Bars all the time because I'm training for a marathon that Cassie's got running plan for. So I use Cliff Bars all the time because it's carb dense, and that's just kind of what sits well on my stomach. I think it's 45 grams of carbs for one bar. So that's what I found works for me. So how about you, Sarah?
Right, and it is individualized for your goal. Your goals are going to be different than my goals because I'm not training for a marathon right now. Surprisingly, I'm kind of not training for a marathon right now. But like, for example, this morning I ran out of the house, wasn't focused on what I was eating for breakfast, didn't have anything prepped, so I just grabbed a granola bar out of my pantry just because I have it on hand, just in case I have situations like that, because realistically, that's what's going to happen. And it is good to prepare for times like that, because we'd rather you have something, and now you're going to be educated on what that something should have in it whenever you're in a hurry like that, to give you fuel, because that's important. We want to give you fuel.
Yes, fuel. We definitely want to be fuel.
yeah, and you didn't go through the McDonald's drive-thru.
I didn't.
Because you had a bar.
Exactly.
So that's perfect.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, that's a little bit better of an option.
Right.
So as you can see, we just have a small fraction of granola bars out here, and I know podcast listeners at home cannot see them, but we have quite a few out here. So we're gonna kind of just break them all down, what to look for, and to start, what to look closely at is obviously your nutrition facts and your ingredient label. So things you want on your nutrition label are things that you can pronounce and that you know exactly what they are. Majority of the time. Sometimes it's hard with granola bars, but we are going to recommend some brands that we think might be more natural and have more natural ingredients, maybe healthier ingredients overall. So things I've seen in granola bars, obviously oats, nuts, dates, those types of things that help keep it together and that make it taste good and give it that natural sweetness. But there also are some things to watch for in granola bars, and we have a longer list of probably those types of things. So let's start with Cassie. What are some things we kind of want to watch out for?
Yeah, sugar is a big one because especially if it's a protein bar, protein powder. I don't know if you guys had to taste protein powder that was plain or denatured. Whenever we were doing our internship, we had to taste lots of things. I know in the hospital, so it doesn't taste very good when it's plain, and so they have to doctor it up. So the more things like that it has in it, the more sugar they might add, or the more ingredients they might add. To make it taste decent. So I try to do more oat based because oats taste pretty good anyways, but sugar is a big one that you need to watch out for, and there might be lots of different types of sugar. So if you've ever looked at an ingredient list, they're listed in order of appearance, I would say. So just like a movie, you know, the first actor or actress that's listed is going to be the one that's in there the most. And so so that's how the ingredient list is. And so they're tricky though, because the food industry likes to, make it seem healthier than it is. So they might have 4 different sugars that they can put lower on the list. So oats is the first ingredient, but if you added all 4 sugars together, then that would be the first ingredient, sugar. So you have to watch for that. And we'll have a list of what sugars to look for on the label in our notes for this too.
Yeah, because there's so many, and I mean, companies really like to try to trick us. It's hard to keep up with the so many different ways as to say, here's sugar in our bar, but it's not going to necessarily say sugar every single time.
So, but looking for syrup and any kind of, of course, concentrated, even if it's from a fruit, it can be a concentrated sugar that's natural. It can be an added sugar as well. So you just have to look for that on the label.
Yes, definitely. And then those artificial sweeteners as well.
It seems like everyone's putting those in their bars nowadays just because there's not calories associated with it. So when you have something that's sugar-free or sugar alcohols, of course, people are like, well, it doesn't have calories, so it's good for me. But a lot of the times when you put that in, there's not other good beneficial vitamins and minerals in there. Plus, a lot of the times GI distress, stuff like that, will accompany that, which is not great. And a lot of times people are like, well, this upset my stomach, so I can't eat this or I can't eat that. When it is good to analyze those ingredients, understand what you're putting in your body, extract that, maybe then analyze that specific part rather than just the food as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going off of what Sara just said, things like chicory root, inulin that are the same, that can cause a lot of GI distress. We talked about it in our last podcast, but bringing it up again because it's in tons of granola bars. And that can cause that bloating and GI stress, such as in a fiber 1 bar, chicory root extract is the first ingredient. So if you eat that and kind of feel that bloating and that kind of thing, that could maybe be the culprit. It could be something else, but definitely something to look out for. Right?
Yeah, and the fiber, another thing to mention about fiber that they put into bars, the research behind that doesn't show that that's necessarily as healthy as getting fiber from a whole food source. And so when they take anything out and they add it back into a food to up the fiber gram, so if it has nothing that should have fiber but a bunch of added fiber, it may not be that healthy for you, is what research shows. And then also it may give you a lot more GI symptoms. So if you have a lot of bloating issues, look at maybe what you're eating in a bar or other things.
Definitely. And kind of going back to sugar for just a second, I know we mentioned it last time, but I think it's important to mention again, 25 grams of added sugar at the most each day. So just keep an eye on that. And that's about 1 teaspoon of sugar is about 4 grams of sugar. So
yeah. And thinking about that too, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second about net carbs. So if you're about the added fiber, so net carbs is totally made up by the food industry. There's nothing scientific behind it. So they might add 30 grams of sugar from sugar to a bar, and they might add 30 grams of fiber sugar to a bar, and they'll say 0 grams of net carbs. And but they don't cancel each other out. You're still eating the sugar. So ignore net carbs. If it actually has net carbs on the product, that probably means they're adding a bunch of that fiber in there, and that's not something that you want anyways. So just my little public service announcement about net carbs.
Okay, well, PSA. Well, I mean, it's tricky. If you don't know that stuff, it'd be hard. It'd be easy to be like, oh, it's only a gram of carb, but you're just, I mean, it's hard to know.
There's so many buzzwords out there like net carbs, no sugar. I mean, when you see that, you just automatically assume it's healthy, which so we have this platform here to educate you.
Practical nutrition.
Yes.
So kind of moving on, we're gonna talk next about artificial colors and additives. So a lot of the times we're adding lots of colors and things to make it look pretty and kind of give it the look that it's supposed to have. So looking at colorings like caramel coloring is one we see sometimes. Fiber One, again, not to hate on Fiber One, but I feel like we've got lots of ingredients in that one. They use that caramel kind of coloring, and the World Health Organization says that it could have some carcinogens involved in that. So we definitely want to keep an eye out for that. And then another thing that can have some carcinogens as well is thickening agents, depending on which kinds that you're using in a granola bar. And Cassie, you may have to help me out with this pronunciation of this word, but I always forget how to pronounce it. So
Carrageenan.
Carrageenan.
Carrageenan. And let's talk about carcinogen, because everyone may not know what that means.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's carcinogen can be a cancer-causing element. It can be typically when it's super processed, that can be a product of whenever it's really processed. So it can cause cancer, and research has shown that.
Yes.
So we want to keep that to a minimum.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised how many things caramel colors in. So obviously sodas, that's a big one. But also in a lot of ingredients, that are trying to look healthier by looking brown.
Yeah.
Right. So that if they're trying to look like a whole grain, you may be surprised that your whole wheat bread or your wheat bread has caramel coloring in it to make it look like it's wheat, but it's not really 100% whole wheat. Right. So look for caramel coloring. That's a
look for it. And then, so we've already talked about carrageenan, right? I said it.
We're in the Ozarks, so we have a little leeway.
That's right. If you weren't sure where we're based, Ozark, Missouri, where we're at. So just avoiding those things as much as possible. That can have those carcinogenic effects. And now kind of bouncing off of that, non-GMO. We hear that word a lot, and that's genetically modified foods. So you want to look for non-GMO as much as possible, and Sarah's going to tell us a little bit about why.
So a lot of times what we see as an ingredient in protein bars, granola bars is soy. So that is one thing that we recommend to avoid GMO soy, move towards that non-GMO, just to avoid any residues of herbicides. Glyphosate is used in Roundup, which is used as an herbicide, so that whenever you are choosing ingredients that aren't non-GMO, you may see that in residues on top of those ingredients.
Yeah, so I know we talked about last time that whenever we eat that stuff, do we absorb it, Cassie?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes, and it's one of those things, if you have the choice not to have it, then it's better not to have it. So it's better for your body, it's better for the environment, lots of reasons. And usually organic, if it's 100% organic, they can't have genetically modified organisms in that food, or ingredients. So
right. And then another thing that I've seen, like an artificial preservative, it's called BHT, and I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this one, but you'll see it as BHT on the food label most of the time, and that's in a lot of Quaker Chewy granola bars, Special K protein bars, those meal replacement bars. A lot of those have that BHT, and that has carcinogenic effects as well. Yes. So really the moral of this whole story is really focus on your ingredients. What are you eating? What are you consuming? What are you putting in your body? What are you giving to your kids? I mean, it's really important, not just in granola bars, but in all food in general, but especially granola bars because they're so accessible and so popular that people just grab one that maybe can be tricky on the label. It's like, oh, it's got 20 grams of protein. Let me grab that one. It's just important to be sure to read the label and be educated about what you're buying. And the next thing we kind of want to move into is just general calories. So kind of what do we think we want to shoot for, Cassie, at a granola bar?
Usually people use this for a snack, and so usually maybe 200 calories or 150 calories is what we would shoot for a snack. And again, we really want you to make sure that you need those extra carbs that are easy to get to. So it's really quick and easy to grab some almonds and a piece of fruit, an apple or something that you could just eat in the car. So we always would want that to be your first choice. But this as a backup, something around 200 calories. If you're using it for workouts, maybe 250 calories, like a Cliff Bar or something like that would be appropriate. But for most snacks, anywhere from 150 to 200 calories would usually be what we recommend.
Right, and sometimes they can load them up. I've seen granola bars like 350 calories or so. So again, just important to look at that ingredient list. And then next, moving on to fiber. So you do want a little bit of fiber in your granola bar if you can, but from natural whole sources. Because like your fruits and that kind of stuff are gonna have that natural fiber in it. So tell us a little about fiber.
Well, oats are normally a base for granola bars. So that's where a lot of fiber will come from, which is good fiber. It's not from a super processed source. Typically you want to shoot for at least 3 grams of fiber, and there are granola bars that don't have fiber in them. There's also granola bars that have that chicory root fiber in there, which again, I think we said fiber 1 was the first ingredient, which can again lead to just different problems digestive wise. So again, look at where the fiber is coming from. Like we said, dates are a common ingredient in more natural granola bars, or if you make them at home. So those are going to be good sources of fiber.
Yes, absolutely. And fiber is going to help keep your digestion moving and keep you regulating all that. So you definitely want to be sure that you do have some fiber in your day. And then we're going to move on to protein, which protein bars in themselves are a huge industry. And typically 5 to 8 grams of protein in a granola bar, and then sometimes you're looking for, and then sometimes there's 20 grams of protein. So Cassie, can you kind of explain why there'd be 20 grams of protein in a granola bar?
Some of these are more meal replacement, so that might be why they have 20 grams of protein. It also might be because they're trying to market to someone who is watching carbs, and they think that, protein is, you can eat as much as you want because it doesn't count, right? So unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So using it for a meal replacement, though, you might want to get more protein because it'll keep you satisfied longer. It will meet your protein needs for that meal. But for a snack, after a workout, 20 grams may be fine, but most people wouldn't need quite that much. So, and a peanut butter sandwich also can give you a decent amount of protein, and it's super easy as well. But the protein in it is usually going to be because they're either marketing to someone who wants more protein or a recovery bar, which would be appropriate. But you need to look at the type of protein that's in it as well. And usually it's going to be a protein powder, of some sort that they're going to try to make taste better than it tastes. So, like I mentioned earlier, whey protein is a dairy-based protein, so it should say that on there just so you know what you're getting. And that's really good for recovery from exercise. You may also get a soy protein or a pea protein, or there's all sorts of plant-based protein in there as well, which is also very healthy. So, but again, it's extremely processed. So, pea protein doesn't look anything like peas, So
It's not ground
up. So you just have to be sure you watch that because there is something we call thermic effect of food, and whenever your body has to break down food, when it's not processed, it burns a lot of calories to do that. And whenever you put something like protein powder in, you're going to absorb all those calories because it's broken down for you pretty much. So, that's just something to consider, and that's why protein bars can be so helpful around exercise because it's quick fuel.
Yeah. So you're saying that if we eat whole real food, we're actually going to burn more calories?
Yes.
Oh, I just wanted for the people in the back. I just wanted you to hear that. So that's just a huge benefit in itself, just eating whole food. And I know Cassie mentioned the process of getting that protein extracted is kind of interesting. Just to kind of describe a little bit of the process. So soy protein isolate, protein from soybeans that is stripped of all other nutrients through acid washing.
Ouch.
Sounds like a very natural process. So just be aware of what you're consuming. What would be just a better solution in general?
So if you are wanting something quick and you find a granola bar that we recommend and you're like, okay, I need a little bit more protein than this, there are so many foods that can give you that extra oomph when it comes to protein. boiled eggs, cheese sticks, like Cassie said, a peanut butter sandwich, apple and peanut butter, whatever it is. There's so many options in there, and it is okay to eat a couple different things after a workout or when you're on the go, just to make sure you're getting what your body needs at that time.
Yeah, and like Sarah, she summed it up perfectly. Granola bars are a quick and easy and convenient option. There are some that are better than others, like we've already mentioned. But apples and peanut butter, cheese sticks, yogurt, anything like that's going to be good options right after a workout as well. But if we are going to pick like a wholesome granola bar, I know we've talked about some of the cons of lots of ingredients in granola bars, but what are some improvements you feel like that, or some benefits that we could get from eating a natural granola bar?
Natural granola bars have oats, which you mentioned pretty much always.
Right.
And oats are really good because they have soluble fiber. We talked about the fiber in them, and that's really good for decreasing cholesterol and because it kind of attaches things as it moves out of your body. So that's a really good fiber, and it can keep you full. So that, having something with oats in it is definitely very helpful. And then if it has fruit in it, you're going to get that benefit from the fruit, antioxidants, nutrients, vitamins and minerals, things like that from the fruits as well. So potassium helps lower blood pressure.
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
things.
Yeah. I love it. And she, like Cassie just said, improving blood pressure, providing antioxidants, sometimes reducing blood sugar, reducing cholesterol, because the oats, again, attach to that cholesterol, help it move out of our system. So getting a good quality brand of granola bars is important if you want a lot of these benefits. And so kind of sum it up for us, like bottom line, what are we...
Bottom line, anytime we talk about quick on-the-go snacks, like last week we talked about yogurt, this week we're talking about granola bars, we always are going to have a food-first approach, which means picking snacks like fruit with the nut butter, nuts, cheese sticks, peanut butter sandwich, stuff like that. However, granola bars can be a quick option if you need that source of energy in between meals, on the go, you forgot your lunch, whatever it is, just make sure you're picking ones with wholesome ingredients.
Yeah, that's good, Sarah. And one question I have too is it a backup if you do it every day?
It's more of a routine than that.
Okay, so that's just something to consider, because I think a lot of people go in and they're like, oh, this is just a backup. And then they end up grabbing it every day. So every day is your habit and what you do. And so, when we talk about these are great options, but you have to also be, real with yourself and say, okay, I'm grabbing this option every day, so maybe this is just what I'm doing and it's not the best option that I could do. So that's something else to consider.
Right.
And if you feel like you have a granola bar habit, and which some people do, because of the chocolate or whatever, you can actually have a good quality piece of dark chocolate that might even be healthier than the granola bar.
Right.
So just know why you're doing it, and then if you have a habit that you want to break, sometimes the best option is to not buy as many of them or have them, in a place out of sight, so that way you're not just grabbing it every day. You really truly are using it for a backup when you have no other healthy option. So.
Right. So like sometimes if you have a granola bar bucket on the counter, it makes it really easy to grab and go. Sorry, Mom. It was real quick and easy when we were young. I know better now. I've learned a lot. So just quickly looking at all these brands. Again, there's so many, and we're going to provide just a quick list of ones that we think may be a little bit healthier and might have a little more wholesome ingredients. But one that I see just off the top of everything is this Lara bar. And just real quick to read the ingredients, it's cashews, dates, semi-sweet chocolate chips, apples, sea salt, and vanilla extract. I understand the ingredients. I pronounce them. We don't always get that lucky to eat bars like this. I mean, sometimes maybe we don't like the taste of this one, so we gotta move on to something else. But definitely be an educated consumer. Make sure that you're reading the ingredient label and picking ones that don't have tons of additives whenever you can. And make sure that it's gonna help you reach your goals, because again, not one size fits all. Everybody has different goals, so it's important to make sure that it fits into your lifestyle. So with that being said, this concludes our granola bar podcast video, unless you have anything else to add.
I think we covered it all.
Perfect. Okay, if you do have questions, please comment on our Instagram, our Facebook. We are obviously going to post this on our podcast. We will have a new episode next week, so keep following along. And everybody, this was Practical Nutrition. Thank you so much.
Thanks.